Members of the Board of Trustees and Trustees Emeriti, Colby Overseers, faculty, administrative colleagues, and of course, parents and families of graduating seniors, and last but not least, most importantly, members of this great class of 2013. Welcome to this baccalaureate service, the first official moment in Colby's 192nd commencement. Every baccalaureate is special, but this one is particularly meaningful as we conclude our celebrations of Colby's bicentennial. 4 years ago, at your first-year assembly, I previewed this alignment when I alerted you to your distinction as the bicentennial class. And now here we are, a bit older, certainly wiser, and more deeply aware, I hope, of the remarkable legacy of work and commitment that has brought us to where we are now. I hope you won't mind if I indulge the historical impulse one last time by sharing a bit more about the history of this baccalaureate service and address. But first, a word about T-shirts. For reasons I do not fully understand, students often think of me when they think about making T-shirts. The first version of the bro shirt appeared in 2003 when some very enterprising and spirited students coined the phrase "Stop Brohibition" and printed it on handsome blue T-shirts. I used that T-shirt in my baccalaureate address that year to the great pleasure of the graduating class, I might add, and I pulled it out again in 2011 when I offered it up in clear jest, I thought, in return for a large gift to the senior class gift drive. At the end of the weekend, I received a testy email from an interested party wanting to know where to get one of these collector items. There was no mention of a gift. So I'm pleased to report today that a new model of the bro shirt has appeared just in time for this address. It's a very clever advertisement for the Farnham Writers Center. On the front, it reads ominously, "Let's eat bro." And here it is. This was the side I saw first, by the way. And it made me a little anxious about the state of student culture at Colby. I know that administrators are not at the head of the most popular list, but cannibalism? It's not the way I imagined ending my career at Colby, on a spit at the senior class barbecue. But then I turned the shirt around and found this on the back. "Let's eat, comma, bro," followed by the phrase, "Commas save lives." And here it is. I was so relieved and impressed by the humor first and foremost, but also by the wisdom. Commas do save lives, or at the very least, they save sentences, and a good sentence is worth a lot. Of course, as almost graduates of Colby, you know the importance of commas and the other elements of good writing. One of the things we've tried to do together here with you is to make you powerful and fluid communicators. As I will say a bit later on, you will find that enormously useful in the years to come. And just to be clear, this particular T-shirt is not for sale, though the Farnham Writers Center may have more to give away, or perhaps to sell. And now back to history. We've been coming together in this way for a very long time, indeed since 1821, for as long as students have been graduated from Colby. Of course, the program has changed a lot in that time, The first 87 baccalaureate addresses at Colby were delivered by presidents who were Baptist ministers, and they were ambitious with respect both to the content and length of their remarks. Consider the baccalaureate coinciding with the 50th anniversary of the college. President J.T. Champlin delivered an address of some 10,000 words on August 2, 1870, relating in some significant detail the history of the college since its founding. The address was delivered in the First Baptist Church in Waterville, where most of the baccalaureate sermons were delivered before the move to Mayflower Hill in the 1940s. President Champlin was clearly providing one last test of the patience and physical endurance of the members of the senior class. You'll be relieved to know that I do not intend to test you in this or any other way today. At the baccalaureate on the occasion of the 75th anniversary, President Benaiah Longley Whitman delivered a sermon of roughly the same length on July 25th, also in the First Baptist Church. Interestingly, he struggled there to reconcile the religious orientation of the college with the rise of Darwin's theory of evolution, about which I'm sure you all know a good deal. He conceded, creatively, I think, the truth of Darwin's vision of how the natural world works, but not the idea that Darwin's theory makes religion and faith irrelevant. He wrote, quote, "There is no more glory in having a body made in an instant than in having it made in 1,000,000 years. The way that was good enough for God is good enough for me. Why should he hurry?" Why, indeed. President Arthur Roberts delivered the baccalaureate on the centennial celebration on June 27, 1920. You'll note the calendar moving closer to our own, which must have pleased those in attendance owing to the temperature differences in Waterville between June and July. The title of his address was "Give, and it shall be given to you," and in a variety of interesting ways, Roberts tried to make a single important point. What you get from all phases of life is exactly proportionate to what you give, to the level and intensity of your engagement. I echoed this sentiment, unknowingly, I must admit, in your first-year assembly address when I said that, quote, "What we as teachers know is that the principal obstacle to your intellectual empowerment at Colby is passivity. Nothing is more certain to constrain your growth here than the notion that you will learn by way of quiet osmosis, by sitting attentively in lectures and seminars and laboratories and listening politely to others." Close quote. Give, and it shall be given to you. Notwithstanding this echo, much has changed at Colby over the course of 2 centuries, and no change stands out more clearly than the gradual erosion of the religious identity of the college. In 1895, President Whitman spoke for all previous presidents and some to follow when he said, quote, "Fellowship with God is the great end of life," unquote. Now, 125 years later, we may lament or we may celebrate the absence of such intense religious conviction at the heart of the college, but it's clear that we will never have this particular certainty again. But even here, something of an echo persists. It can be heard in the belief pervasive at Colby that a life committed narrowly to the private pursuit of personal happiness is not the fullest sort of life. Don't get me wrong, I believe in the pursuit of happiness and in the individual liberty that grounds it. We are all well-schooled, you are well-schooled because of the education you've had here in our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. But like virtually all our forebears, religious and otherwise, we believe that we have definite obligations to people and issues and places beyond our private happiness. In lots of different ways, Colby's programs have tried to steer all of you to some sort of encounter with those obligations. Civic engagement programs are abundant here, and so too are the many ways in which your academic work required you to exercise your moral imaginations and sensibilities. inserting yourselves into the lives of others different from your own and attempting to understand what defines and animates them. You've certainly demonstrated your interest and capacity in such matters. Many of you worked with the Colby Volunteer Center in a whole variety of ways in Waterville and the surrounding community. Roughly 20% of your class volunteered in Colby's remarkable mentoring program, Colby Cares About Kids. Others among you have been committed to environmental causes, including efforts to make Colby a greener and more sustainable institution. And some of you wanted to make Colby a better place by reminding us that we are not yet the fully inclusive and representative community that we need to be and that we want to be. You know that some of us did not always agree with your criticisms or methods, but we never doubted the authenticity of your beliefs or the importance of the goals you sought and still seek to achieve. As it has been for 200 years, Colby is a work in progress, and we have a lot of work left to do. And I know that you will continue to help us. The pragmatic needs and concerns of the world of work and careers, for example, has also been of intense interest to us. Indeed, everything you have been doing at Colby has been preparing you for that world, whether you knew it or not, and probably not always in the ways you expected. And here comes my first and most important piece of advice. As you contemplate stepping out into the world of work or graduate and professional school the day after tomorrow, the first thing you need to do is to get rid of any bashfulness you might have about having attended a liberal arts college and having attained a liberal arts degree. Indeed, I urge you to be confident about the full relevance and utility of what you have done here. This confidence is appropriate for a couple of reasons. First on the list is the fact that you have completed a demanding course of studies in one of the best liberal arts colleges in the world. You've met the requirements in your major, in some cases more than one, or a major and a minor, and you have satisfied the general education requirements of the college. You will know that all of this is true tomorrow when I hand you your diplomas. What I ask you to consider is this. That degree is not so much about specific forms of knowledge, though they matter, or meeting requirements, as it is about a more general kind of intellectual empowerment, the realization of your innate capacities and potential as thinkers and writers and speakers and creators. This is not to say that the challenging work you did in various programs and disciplines at Colby was somehow beside the point. On the contrary, it's only by way of these specific forms of intellectual engagement that the more fundamental brand of empowerment I'm trying to describe is available. But wherever you found yourselves in Colby's interesting curriculum, you experienced a common regimen of intellectual calisthenics. Each and every one of you has been required to think hard and clearly and persuasively about things that matter, to speak and write with substance and imagination and force, and to exercise your imaginations in all kinds of interesting ways. As a result, your minds are fundamentally stronger, more capacious than they were when you arrived here 4 years ago. And the basic intellectual virtues that I'm talking about, thinking and communicating, understanding, imagining, are the things that you will need most out there in the real world, irrespective of your professional destinations. The confidence and self-assurance that I counsel today has everything to do with these basic intellectual acquisitions. I'm even more certain that the meaning and utility of these gains will become more and more apparent to you and important to you as time goes by. If you don't want to take my word for it, consider the honorary degree recipients who will receive our praise tomorrow. They are all Colby graduates, in keeping with the bicentennial celebration. And they demonstrate more powerfully than my words ever could the value and power of the liberal arts education you're about to conclude. Our speaker, Gregory White Smith, class of 1973, was an English major at Colby and then went on to Harvard Law School. Following Harvard, he did what any ambitious Harvard Law graduate would do. He wrote 5 New York Times bestsellers and won the Pulitzer Prize for his biography of the painter Jackson Pollock. David Bodine, class of 1976, is the senior investigator and chief of the genetics and molecular biology branch at the National Institute for Health Human Genome Research Institute. At Colby, David majored in biology and credits his undergraduate research with Colby faculty as the key to the successful launch of his brilliant scientific career. Eleanor Duckworth, class of 1957, was a philosophy major at Colby and then studied with the great educational theorist Jean Piaget in Paris and Geneva. She went on to teach at Harvard, among other places, where she became a national authority on education reform. After majoring in philosophy and government at Colby, Kenneth Ongalo Obote, class of 1994, entered public life in his native Uganda, ultimately becoming a member of parliament there, where he has done path-breaking work on women's issues and rights. And speaking of service, Captain Eric Quist, class of 1999, an economics major at Colby, left his promising business career to join the Marines. He served 3 tours of combat duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, and his experiences in the Marines prompted his companion in life, Elizabeth Ann Zernicki Quist, class of 1998, to help found the Semper Fi Fund, which is devoted to helping wounded servicemen and women and their families. Liz also will be honored tomorrow. Not far from the Quists in Washington, D.C., Pete Rouse, class of 1968, has spent most of his career laboring in the vineyards of public service and has risen to the exalted position of senior political advisor to the President of the United States. Pete majored in history and covered sports for the Echo. Echo writers, take note. After Colby, he went to the Kennedy School at Harvard and from there into public service. And last but certainly not least, Savas Zambilis, class of 1979, who heads the Greek Orthodox metropolis of Pittsburgh, has become one of the most prominent leaders of his church in the United States. At Colby, Savas majored in English and philosophy and was known for his interest in punk rock and acting. Punkers, take note. What a group, and what interesting and diverse lives and careers. From those lives and careers, I draw the following instructive and I hope to you reassuring conclusions. 1, philosophy majors rule. I was a philosophy major, as some of you know. 2, Harvard owes a great deal to Colby. 3, more seriously, the path between a Colby major and one's professional destiny and success is serpentine at best. 4, life is long, and the turns in the road favor those with the broadest and strongest fundamental intellectual capacities and powers. And 5, and maybe most important, President Roberts was right on target in his baccalaureate address in 1920. Give, and it will be given to you. With respect to the ideals of service and giving back to the community, it's hard to imagine a more exemplary group of individuals than those we honor tomorrow. We talk a lot about social networking these days, by which, of course, we most commonly mean the new virtual media that surround us and invade our lives in increasingly obvious and sometimes worrisome ways. But there is another kind of social networking that you now have access to. It is much older, more traditional, and probably more effective than Facebook or LinkedIn. I am referring, of course, to the networking done by Colby alumni and alumnae, among whom you will be counted tomorrow. That community now numbers well over 25,000 people in the United States and around the world. You will find them in every place you work and live, and you will discover in their presence the part of you that is still here. Call on them for advice and help and friendship. I know you will find them eager to know you. This is one of the most important and enduring benefits of belonging to a community such as this. As you meet these people, I hope you will come to feel, as they do, a keen sense of responsibility for Colby. This place now belongs to you as alumni in a new and very powerful way. Its future well-being and its future generations of students will depend on your affection and on your support, as its present strength and students depend on those who preceded you. I can't resist one last historical reference. In his baccalaureate address in 1920, President Roberts had this very same notion of caring and giving back on his mind when he wrote, quote, "If the fire of affection for Colby, now flaming in your hearts, is to be kept steadfastly burning through the years, you must form and practice the habit of doing something for the college. Give, and it shall be given to you." You have an impressive start on this road to giving back. Almost 80% of this class has already given to the senior class gift drive, and you've exceeded collectively your revenue goal by a whopping $1,000. Thank you for this early expression of generosity. And why stop there? If you haven't given, there's still time between now and tomorrow morning for you to participate in this drive. But giving back need not consist and does not exclusively consist in philanthropy. Hundreds of Colby alumni volunteer annually, serving as admission interviewers, class agents, advisors to the Career Center, and much, much more. Some of you have met them already. Your future association with Colby can touch many parts of your lives, and we hope that it will. And of course, you also take with you your friendships. I can assure you that they will endure. At every one of the many stops I make around the country on my annual tour each year, I'm always impressed by the strength of the ties that bind classmates. These, too, are permanent acquisitions. Several days ago, I asked a member of your class if there was anything in particular that I should say in this address. He thought for a moment and said, "Relationships." I'm sure that he meant your friendships, but he was also probably thinking about all of the relationships you've had here at Colby, with faculty, with members of the administrative and support staffs, with our colleagues who work in dining and residence halls, with your coaches and mentors, and perhaps alumni as well. All of these relationships are part of your Colby experience and soon-to-be memories. But they are not just memories. They last, and they are here for you to re-engage and extend when you're ready. I've spent a lot of time today talking about the things you've acquired here at Colby, but no farewell of this kind would be complete without an acknowledgement of what you have given to us. I think I speak for every one of my faculty colleagues when I say that we are grateful to you for letting us be involved in this remarkably interesting and powerful part and time in your lives. It's in this exhilarating work that we find our most important satisfactions and realize who we are. For us, too, in other words, this is an enterprise about the realization of potential and about relationships. So thank you for your hard work, for your achievements, for your commitment, and for letting us into your lives. Tomorrow is a more public day and occasion with happy crowds of family and friends looking on. In the meantime, I'm grateful, we all are grateful, for this one last chance to think quietly and a bit more privately about where we have been together during these past 4 years. I look forward to seeing you at the next alumni event in your neighborhood and to learning of your accomplishments and your reflections on your Colby experience. For now, good luck to you, and please keep in touch. Thank you.